We have no agenda adjustments. Oh, I have to remind you, the meeting's being videotaped for those that
Don't notice the camera.
want to take a look into the camera and be seen by the rest of the public. And I'll have a motion on the minutes.
I'll make the motion that we accept all the minutes, A through G.
And I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous? Student of the month.
I'd like to invite Ben Duncan up. Ben is a sophomore from Abington. His parents, Jean and Kim, are in attendance as well, so thank you for joining us today. Once again, Ben, we have our Student of the Month that comes highly recommended from both our academic and vocational teachers, receiving multiple nominations. Ben is a sophomore in the Allied Health program. A number of the comments involved his commitment to Skills USA, and I can say that Ben was a big help for us this weekend, this past weekend at Open House, providing tours, playing a little bit of a cameo role in our video presentation that will be available on TV and in theaters across the nation soon. Ben also volunteers coaching gymnastics and karate as well. So we are proud to have Ben as our Student of the Month for November, and I would like to present the certificate. There we go, and this party backpack. Ben, I should also note that Ben is term 1 is closing pretty soon. He was maintaining straight A's.
Wow.
I'm not going to put you on the spot for we close the term coming up, but he is a solid honors student as well.
Good job.
Thank you.
We have no student advisory council tonight. I'm going to turn the meeting over for a few minutes to Mr. Jim Coughlin. He's going to introduce Bruce Norling and our annual report.
Thank you, Bob. Bruce Norling is the auditor for the past many years here at for the school, and Bruce has put together a report that's in your packets tonight, and there's bound copies up front here for people to have as well. So Bruce, you want to take it away?
Sure. Thanks, Jim. Along with my staff, performed the audit of the school district for the year ended June 30, 2014. And I'm really pleased to say that the audit went really well. I'm very pleased with the procedures that they're in place, that there's documentation of procedures, that there's monthly reporting, and of course from our auditor's standpoint, one of the bigger events was there was a change in treasurers from Bob Kelly, who'd been here 36 years, I believe. And inevitably there was a change, to Jim, and so he started in July approximately. So most of the work we did was with Jim as far as the audit work, although Bob Kelly was very instrumental, I think, in the transition. So there's something new, and in the end, I think it was a very seamless transition. I give Jim a lot of credit. I think he's done extraordinary to take over Bob's shoes, and the end product is very good. Now, as far as the results in 2014, the financial statements show that you had a favorable budget variance of about $94,000 overall. So that's good news, and I found that the capital assets here, the building and the equipment, they were all accounted for properly, and We had no findings in the audit. We also test for compliance for the state grants, and there's a few federal grants, and we do a test of the compliance of the contracts. And we found no findings in that area. I think we've got to give a lot of credit to the accounting department, although it may be small, as far as keeping in compliance with everything that needs to be kept in compliance with, and the functions like payroll and disbursements. I think that they have a good system there, and I think if people are following the rules and doing a good job, and the end result is, I think you should be very comfortable, with the transition to the new treasurer and with the financial statements that you have for 2014. So I'm really pleased to say that things went very well. I thank Jim for his work. It was not easy the first year for him, but I think he's made it.
He survived.
So, are there any questions anybody might have?
I thank you, Bruce.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Good job as usual. And I think we're going to vote on it, and I'd like to have the recommendation by one of the audit committee members to make the motion.
I'll make the motion that we accept the auditor's report.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous.
Great, thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce.
As Bruce mentioned, I mean, the work of Edna and Pat in the office is tremendous there. Pat handles the payroll and those issues, and Edna is the certified procurement officer, and she does a fabulous job with the purchasing of everything. So without their help, of course, they're making my job a lot easier, so they do a great job. Next item under my side of the agenda is the year-end Department of Education report, which is due September 30th. That was done on a timely basis. It's a 87-page spreadsheet which pretty much details every nickel that's spent during the course of the year. It gets to a number called the net school spending, which goes into various calculations that the state uses for pupil per pupil costs and so forth, which has been submitted. We also have to submit a report with the Department of Revenue. That was also submitted by September 30th, and we actually had a visit from our Department of Revenue representative back the 1st of November just to review some of the numbers. Again, he's visited every past couple of years just to stop by, say hello, look at the spreadsheets, and I believe in your package there might be a what's called an excess report as far as what our surplus is, and they've certified that for this year, so everything is good. So we're in good standing financially with the Department of Education and with the Department of Revenue.
Thank you, Jim.
The next item is the October 2014 report. The orange cover in honor of Halloween or Thanksgiving, I don't know. Edna takes care of the colors. I haven't been elevated to the status of picking colors yet, so I know Bob Kelly.
Used to do it for Bob, too.
It was always green when Kelly did it, so. But Edna's going crazy with the colors, and it's an orange this year, this month. Pretty much the first page has our cash balances and so forth. $1.7 million between our checking and our investment accounts. As we mentioned in previous meetings, we've moved money out of the Mass Municipal Trust into our main account at Rockland, and we're beginning to disperse some of that savings money into local banks. Abington Bank has an account set up there right now, as well as Pilgrim Bank and Cohasset. Situate Federal is on the list, Mutual Bank. And again, the local banks and the local towns to disperse some of the reserve monies that we have. The next page is our income for the current month and the year-to-date. Again, other than receiving our monthly allocation of Chapter 70 money, there's pretty much not a lot of activity as far as the revenue side. We bill the towns for their assessment on November 1st, so that money's that money actually December 1st, so that money's starting to trickle in right now, and that'll be appearing on next month. Some of it will be appearing on next month's statement. So overall the income is as planned as far as the assessments and other monies are concerned. And the final page, again, is just a listing of all our expenses, the budgeted numbers, what was expended during the course of the month, and year-to-date. Again, there will be no budget transfers. Everything is still in line, ramping up the school year, getting supplies and materials in the school for the year, and things are running very smoothly from that standpoint. One of the line items on the report that we've been working on a regular basis is our utilities. I know Mr. Patterson's here to talk about something later on, but we've been monitoring our agreement with the town of Situate regarding the solar field that we receive credits on, and that is that's something that we're monitoring and figuring out how, it's our first year. It's actually we've only been doing it for about 6 months now, and we're trying to get a handle on our utility costs, and it's definitely a good situation as far as where we are utility-wise, and we are saving a ton of money on our national grid bills and so forth. So overall, financially, we're doing well, plugging along, and there's no issues. So I guess, Bob, I need a vote to accept the treasurer's report.
I'll make the motion to accept the treasurer's.
Hanover made the motion.
I'll second.
Adele Abington, second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous.
And again, there's no budget transfers, so,
Okay.
for this month.
Okay, that leaves me. First of all, as chairman, I want to thank the staff and administration that turned out for open house Saturday. I thought it, and school committee members as well that were there. I thought it was fantastic. I spoke with a couple of the teachers, and they thought it was great too, but I wanted to personally thank, and in behalf of the school committee, for what a great job. And I think I emailed Tom and asked how late people were coming, and he said at 1:15 he was still meeting and greeting, so it must have turned out pretty well. I don't know what we had for a count, but that'll come later on. But there was a lot of young 8th graders that were interested. In fact, a couple from Tomstown that happened to be relatives of mine that were here, and their grandfather wasn't too much of a proponent of us, but the son and now the grandchildren are, so I think we'll get an application from them there from Hanson. Okay, and I wanted to do that. The audit, we've already taken care of. The legal review, we had 5 great firms apply to represent us. The one the subcommittee chose, I can never remember the name, but they sold us on their first meeting, and everybody else never met their standard the way they sold the subcommittee. And they were, Coleman?
Stoneman, Chandler, and Miller.
Stoneman, Chandler, and Miller. I got it.
Okay.
So we're going to recommend to the committee on that, that we hire them, and we're doing it on a hourly per basis until at least June 30th, and then they're going to look at it again and possibly come back to the subcommittee and talk about maybe going to a retainer-type fee. But they figured, and the subcommittee figured that it's our best bet right now to go that way on a hourly retainer. And we've already given them some heads up on what they might be looking at in the near future, so that they know about it. This time I'll take a motion from one of the subcommittee.
I'll make the motion that we accept Stoneman,
Chandler.
Miller.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Superintendent Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Picking up on your commentary from open house, I couldn't agree more, and I know that as part of the administrator reports, we'll hear a little bit more about open house, so allow me to turn it over to our administrative team for our commentary. Mike?
Oh, here it is. We too were extremely pleased with open house. By comparison, last year we had 205 attendees. That's individual students that signed in. This year we had 282. So that's about a 40% increase over last year. First and foremost, we need to thank the faculty and staff themselves. They're the ones that did all the extra work, went above and beyond. The students, Ben, the students that gave up their Saturdays to come in, spend extra time on Friday after school, cleaning up. The school looked great. It was a real proud moment to show off the halls and the programs. This was the first time that it was held on a Saturday. Typically, it's been in a weekday in December, and so we were appropriately anxious about what the turnout was going to be, and I think by all accounts we're happy with what happened. We're still crunching some of the numbers as far as individual towns, but we saw every town in the district represented. We saw a number of other area towns represented. We saw even some 6th grade students coming in. So people are thinking long term. This is not just a where am I going to head off to high school next year, but really the word is getting out that this is a viable option for for high school and what's next. And by what's next I mean how South Shore can help future goals, future plans. So by all accounts, we're really happy and grateful for the faculty and staff and the work that they put in too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other updates other than open house?
Yeah, Tom.
One of the comments that I did receive on it is, I'm real proud of this place, but it's the condition of our school. Several people commented on me, what's this, 7 or 8 years old? I said, no, it's almost 60 years old. We're going on 60 pretty soon. And they can't believe it, how we take care of the school and how clean it was. And I can't be more proud of the staff, and that's from the custodians, everybody that took part of it. It was a great job.
Bob, Kenny had a comment.
Go ahead, Kenny.
During the open house, I was here, and the report I got from the teachers was unbelievable. I just couldn't believe it. I was kind of feathering along and listening to the conversations with some of the parents and stuff, because he's dropping a little, as you call it. They were astounded, like Bob just said, the cleanliness of the school. The staff was fantastic. They had a little twinkle in their eyes of what was going on with the people coming in. And the shops were full of people. And I said, okay, the hallway was full of people. I said, this is great. And I would like to thank everybody for putting 100% plus into the school and making it a success. And I hope down the road we can actually do it again, because I thought it was great. But thank you.
Yeah.
Well, can I say something on that?
Sure.
Also, I was here, and one thing I noted was the amount of young ladies that were looking at vocational education. Right, understanding that vocational school is not for boys only, it's for women too. And a lot of parents come in with their daughter and son or whatever, and they come in and they're looking, and we've had young ladies working on lathes and saws, things like that, and it was just showing exactly what the industry is all about. And I think we did a great job as far as doing it on a Saturday, a little bit different. Right, we didn't use the lunchroom, we got more people into the shops, and it worked. And I think it was outstanding. Good job.
It was really great, the football game, too.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, I think a lot of the kids were sold on the cheerleaders in the thing, because the parents were trying to get the young boys out of there just to go visit the shops, but I think they were sold, my wife was sold to the cheerleaders as well, and they were doing, the display was fantastic, they did. So, and the academic classroom they had with all the academics, that was full all day as well. So,
Good job.
great job. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll continue briefly. MSBA update, this is regarding the boiler project. I have a conference call every 2 weeks with our OPM and designer. Our designer, RDK, was out here last week and did an initial site visit. I was supposed to have a conference call yesterday. I've asked the designer to give me an early estimate by the first week of December, so that I can factor in and provide all of you with some ballpark estimates, as this will eventually lead to a separate warrant article as well as an impact on the fiscal 16 budget. So it is my hope, and I'll communicate with you as soon as I hear a rough estimate on that. That is proceeding according to schedule at this point. I have no concerns. Building projects update, you'll find a memo from Deb Collins in your correspondence file. Thrilled with the amount of activity going on. Our carpentry students, we had a couple of delays with some rainy weather early this month and in late October. Our carpentry students are beginning work on the concession stand out back. That's progressing along nicely. I'll let you take a look at the other great projects that are going on, and we may have some positive press with our electrical students working on a Habitat for Humanity project in Hanover. So great job, Deb. Great job to our shops that are continuing to put their curriculum to work off campus. That's a lot of fun to see. And my last couple of comments, Mr. Chairman, the second month for 12 Years a Slave, which is a book request from the English department, I'll be taking action on. And I don't have it written here, but just a quick mention that, because we won't meet again until December as a group, but this year we will be participating in the holiday stroll in Rockland on November 29th, which runs from 4 to 7. Another opportunity for us to expand our outreach and give back to the communities that support us. So Lindsay Cuniff, our newest culinary arts instructor, along with several very eager volunteers, and myself will be out there greeting folks participating in that stroll. And as I've said to the members of the committee before, if there are other civic events that are going on in your communities, whatever the season, kindly let me know. We are part of the community and would like to remain a presence. So I look forward to that. That'll be on the 29th. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Dan, you want to update us on the NASCAP conference?
Sure. Okay, it was a 4-day event. It was long days, but to let us know, when I first went there, one of the things that I wanted to learn more about was Common Core and PARC. And sitting in 3 classes, I was probably more confused than when I walked in. I went online and I probably learned more. But learning on, listening to the Common Core and what they plan on doing, starting not to be a big fan of it, but that remains to be seen. Then I went to a class on, it's a company, Tech Connection Academy. It's a class where a person sits in an office, a teacher, and he's online, and he has students in their home on computers. And he teaches them. He can either have 1 student or 30 students, and it's a classroom. It's a virtual classroom for anyone who is either unable to go to work, go to a regular school, their classroom. Whether they're handicapped or bedridden or been expelled, but they want to continue their education. And it's a company that teaches them online, which I thought was pretty good, and they can converse through on the computer. It's a system that works very well. And I thought that was pretty interesting. And then we had a delegate assembly. We had, trying to think, how many did we have? We had a bunch of different referendums that we had to go to, and they all passed. And one of the main things that we talked about that they were really concerned about was the continuance of the state pouring money into Park and Common Core. They asked them to slow down. And another issue was unfunded mandates. Those are the two issues that we talked about and asked them to take a second look at. And they're going to present that to the state. And then we had, let's see, we had a vocational technical education. I think both Tom and I went to that. It was a round robin where we went to different ways of doing things. And they had a class on, again, virtual classroom where they were using computers and they were going with the Chromebook versus iPads, saying Chromebooks they felt were a lot better, they were cheaper, and they could connect to computers and they can research things. But yet it wasn't like an iPad where you can go on Facebook and things like that. So it was more geared towards education. And then we looked at a program that was for middle school outreach, where they would bring middle school kids in and they would show them things that they would make. They were, trying to think, were they like mechanical things, woodworking things?
Yeah. It seemed to be like an upgraded Pinewood Derby.
Right, like a Pinewood Derby. They would make cars and how to operate them, how to make them. And it was just to get the kids interested. It was almost like, Scouts. That seemed kind of funny. That's the first thing I thought about. And then there was a class on culinary arts and different ways of different foods. And it was like, it wasn't the regular foods that you would use. They would make them. It was different.
They were teaching a course on food science.
Food science,
so
right.
They were teaching chemistry concepts through culinary arts.
Right, and crystallized sugars and things like that, which was pretty interesting. Then we had, let's see, trying to think, so many things that went on at one time. We had our Division 8 meeting, and the main thing that talked about in vocational school Division 8 was there were some schools that couldn't get their schools filled, their classrooms filled. We're just the opposite. We don't have enough room for everybody. We could build a second story on this building and still fill it. There are some schools that are in areas like, we'll say Concord and Lexington, that are high-end areas that the vocational schools, they have empty classrooms or half-filled classrooms, and they want to know how they can promote it. So I went on to talk about local cable, local papers, and to push the fact that vocational education is a thing of the future where kids can get out and get a job instantly. It's not like going to college and then hoping that you'll find a job in what the field that you took. But as a vocational school, I mean, they are looking for plumbers and carpenters and automotive. And everything that we teach, there are jobs out there because of the fact that the people who are doing those jobs, I'm sorry to say, we're getting older, and there's going to be a turnaround where we're going to need those vocational jobs, and this is what they need to push, that needs to get done. And then we had a class, and I gave Tom a big book, and Martha a big book on laws, on different problems that they have in schools, and it deals with bullying. It deals with whether the bullying in the classroom or on Facebook. It deals with inappropriate action by either students or employees in the school and how to deal with it, and the different caseloads that have come before the state because of these issues. And the ultimate end to these is the suggestion to us, or to school systems, is to make sure that they have policies and procedures to cover any incident that could happen in a school. Make sure we have procedures on bullying, on sexual harassment, on unfriendly workplace, what may come arise to our school system. We need to have policies to handle that. And basically that was it. That's most of the classes I went to. Thank you.
Unfunded liability was last year as well.
And unfunded liability is
That was last year as well.
right. It was amazing how, And they're coming with, again, park, and if we do not do that, it's a federal mandate. If we don't do it, we may lose federal funding. That is wrong. It's not the way to approach it.
I know that, and I spoke to Dan about it on Saturday.
Yeah.
There's several groups that are anti-park now that are going around trying to convince school districts and parents that's not the way to go as well.
We'll have one in Hanson coming up next month, I believe.
December 5th or 6th.
Yeah.
So, but that's coming down the line, so we'll address it when it gets to us.
Mr. Chairman, the Board of Education is scheduled to take a vote on whether to scrap MCAS and move to Park at its September 2015 meeting. So I think in the interim, we're going to see, as you said, an increase of attention on the topic.
Okay. New business. Mr. Patterson, you want to come up and attempt to sell us? We have it marked down here as a vote. There may not be a vote tonight.
Okay.
Really?
We're,
Right there, Bob.
Right there.
okay, fine, thank you. Yes, several months ago, the Vocational Technical High School hired Patterson Associates. I'm the principal of Patterson Associates. And we do a lot of evaluations of photovoltaic solar energy and how to maximize the credits that you can receive from solar investments, as you already have an agreement with Situate, as well as looking at the opportunity for developing your own PV solar system. We took a look at your facilities here and the grounds and came away with the impression, and which we validated, that the best opportunity that you have for your own photovoltaic solar system is a roof-mounted system on your new roof. We've looked at the warranties, and very fortuitously, your roofer has provided you with a photovoltaic addendum to that warranty, which lays out the conditions if you are to attach anything to the roof, such as a photovoltaic solar panel system. And that is all very well executed and complete. We feel that it's easy to operate within that roof warranty, and it's also admirable that you just had the roof redone, because one of the things that did happen because of the winter 2 years ago was that they changed the structural strength that is required on school roofs, the loading that you can put on them. Your roof is more than sufficient to allow one to put solar panels on the roof. So we executed with a PV solar developer an agreement that they would, for no charge, come and take a look at your facility. They did come and review the facility, and it gave us a confirming estimate of what they could put in the way of solar arrays on your roof, and principally the cost, how much that would be in terms of the electricity price you would pay for that PV solar array on the roof. I must just diverge momentarily here and say, how does this all work? Because basically, other than some of the modest charges you're paying my firm to take a look at this, what you would pay for some legal work in terms of the contracting, all of the other costs are paid for by the developer. So there is virtually no upfront charges by the developer for the installation of a PV solar array on your roof, as long as you sign a contract to purchase the output of that solar array for typically 15 to 20 years. That appears to be a very good situation for the high school, in that you already are participating in what we call virtual net metering with your agreement through Town of Situate, where you receive net metering credits and pay for them, actually helping the Town of Situate unload some of the credits that they are unable to use, which is a good good deal for you and a good deal for them. In addition to that, if you put an array on your roof here, you would be able to get, in terms of a cost reduction, this is the electricity from that array would go into your meter as what we call behind the meter. It will actually reduce the demand of your electric meter on the facility so that you're not asking National Grid and a third-party supplier to provide you with as much electricity as you have been using over the past several years. And as such, the price that you're now paying, which is about 20 cents a kilowatt hour for your electricity, would be offset by a purchase of electricity from the solar array that would amount to about 8.6 cents per kilowatt hour. So there's a substantial, almost a 12+ cent reduction in the cost of the electricity that the array would produce. That would amount, in the assessments that I've provided to you, the spreadsheets, and I apologize for the number of columns. We have lots of answers on these spreadsheets, but the basic answer is that executing an array on your school facility would result in about a $60,000 a year reduction in your electricity costs. Today, you spend, by some of the data I've been able to analyze, about $310,000 a year for electricity. So $60,000 provided by backfeeding your system on the facility from a roof-mounted array would give you a $60,000 reduction in the electricity costs, taking you from $310,000 a year down to $250,000 a year. In addition, I looked at what did this mean relative to your agreement that you have with the town of Situate, because that's very important. You have to have costs, electricity costs, as per the state regulation. You have to have electricity costs to apply those credits to, and I wanted to be certain that you maintained those costs and could still apply the credits from the Situate agreement, and that is indeed the case. You're okay to continue with I would suggest you continue with the agreement with the town of Situate. The town of Situate agreement provides you with about a $60,000 similar benefit to what the roof-mounted arrays would provide you. So where do we stand with all of this? You're basically starting out with a $310,000 electricity bill, and by the conservative estimates that we've come up with, you've got about $60,000 in a reduction by putting an array on your school roof, and $60,000 reduction by continuing the purchase from the town of Situate. So you almost drop your electricity costs in half for the entire facility. And that is a very good thing in light of where electricity costs are going to go. You're stabilizing these cost reductions. They will grow as fast or faster than the cost of electricity. So you are in a good position to reap the benefits going forward and have a very stable budget, as you were indicating that the cost of electricity is a fairly major cost item for the operation of the school facility. Are there any questions that you have on sort of the technical outline of, and then I'll just talk in a minute after if there are any questions, just summarize where I would suggest the high school goes from here.
Well, I have a few to start with. First of all, the roof.
Yes.
Our roof. I'm very concerned about that. For example, Norwell has leaks in their roof already, and that's a new school. That roof wasn't that's not that old. And I understand there's some problems are going to be getting that roof fixed.
Yes.
And,
Just so you know, I also do the solar and the energy purchasing for the Norwell Public Schools and the town of Norwell. I'm very familiar with what's going on.
But, and I'll be honest with you, this roof up here in this school, and I've played with figures, I'm always doing it. I'm of the opinion we can buy third-party electricity from Situate and Norwell and keep our electric bill cheaper than putting solar panels on our roof and taking a chance on the roof. That's just my opinion, and I think your estimates on some of the kilowatts that we might use might be a little high to give us a buyback. Just,
Okay, I'd be pleased to sit down and discuss it with you.
but I'll leave some of that up to our financial wizard to work with as well. But those are my, two of my main questions, concerns.
Sure.
And if we can buy it cheaper than having our own behind-the-meter feeding, to me, that's a great advantage, and we're not hurting our school, our roof, or anything else.
Right.
And I have one other one.
Yep.
Say we have the super snowstorms like we had 4 or 5 years ago.
Right.
How do you get behind the panels to shovel that snow out?
That typically, that can be done with blowers, but also typically they don't go, they just shovel the panels off. And the snow loading and the structural strength of the roof is such that you can take the snow loading plus the loading of the arrays on the roof and not jeopardize not have a situation where some roofs had some sag in them.
Yeah, well, not only the roof sag, but I'm concerned about the supporting walls around the building. They've been known to buckle out when you get a lot of weight. The roof might be holding, but the walls that hold the
Well,
roof up.
your structural drawings indicate that the new roof is structurally well supported and sound.
See, this is something I
Yeah.
want our engineers
Oh, absolutely.
to support before we even
Absolutely.
came to a vote to continue with something. But that's just the chairman talking.
Yeah, no, that's,
I think, Dan, did you have, Kenny?
Yeah, I had some reservations also about it.
Yes.
I haven't been approached to my house because my roof is not down, but my electric bill is not that big. But anyway, I don't know. I just think we're putting our roof in danger by doing that, by cutting into it and panels. I've seen solar panels on the ground. I've seen them at Big Field in Brockton. They're all around. Do we have any land, excess land to do that in our area here? Nothing, right? So, I mean, can we get, like we have with getting deals from Norwell or other towns who may get into solar panels? I have to agree with Bob. I personally would rather go that way than to endanger our roof, because we're meeting the structural rules and regulations of today. But what are they going to be 10 years from now? Are they going to change? Are they going to be more rigid where we need more support and we don't meet that? I don't know, the building industry. So, I mean, I'm like Bob, I have reservations. Maybe it's our age. I don't know.
But,
How big of an array would you have to put on this roof?
would you have,
there's a picture there. I think.
pictures?
Kenny, it's document number 14.
There are two different pictorials. One is the one that we did to estimate come up with our estimate of the number of panels that you can put on the roof. The other was by the solar contractor who's done a lot of roof mounted PV solar facilities. And it shows pretty much that the area, exposed area of the new roof gets fairly well covered. I think in the analysis we did, you can see we leave a lot more, are able to leave a lot more space than they did in terms of coverage. And particularly, you need to have, well, areas where you can shovel snow up, but you also need to be able to get at all the units and the vents on the roof and be able to get to those very easily. But the overall is that most of the area of your new roof,
Yeah.
that's the only roof that can be built on, because it was designed and built with 48 pounds per square foot loading, and that's acceptable. Anything less than that, any roof that is not within a 2 or 3 years old won't have been designed for that, and that's a problem structurally.
Okay, I have one other question.
Yes.
To the board, everybody. Is there, and you just asked a piece of property, we have no property here, correct, okay? By any chance, on the imagination, is there a chance any property in the area we could possibly buy with this on it? Would that work? If it's going to save a lot of money?
Not at the present time, Ken.
Okay, no, I'm asking,
Yeah.
that's all I know.
Yeah, we went through looking for purchase of property before, when we put this addition on, we were looking for more land, and we tried to buy the building, looking at the front adjacent to us on the left,
Yeah.
and the one on the right, but we couldn't come to terms with the people, just for that, for expansion and our septic as well. We're going to have trouble expanding our existing school. We're going to have to put in a treatment center for our septic as well as, and that was just upgraded 10 years ago with a pump system and everything. But in order to meet the new standard, if we put more students in, we're going to have to expand that, and it's going to require a treatment plant.
Okay, now, one other question, I think you've already answered this. You said you've had engineers look at this building already?
Yes.
And they say it's structurally sound?
Yes, it is. I've looked at the plans myself.
Okay, if, the question is the new roof, and I can totally agree with both of these gentlemen on the roof. What is the weight load of that, on that new roof? You said it's 40 pounds per square foot.
No, your structural strength of the roof is 48 pounds per square foot, has a max loading of 48 pounds per square foot. That would be the snow loading that is now permitted, as well as the allowed weight of the panels. The panels are about 6 to 8, depending upon the design, typically about 6 pounds per square foot of the 48 is taken up by the loading of the solar panels. The solar panel loading is a function of, if you think of it, the panels are at an angle, wind loading, and if you're in a high wind area, which you are not, you need to have a more substantial precast concrete block that you're setting the array on. And just so that everybody understands, there are almost, we don't want to penetrate, put a hole in your roof at all. You're sitting these panels on precast concrete footings on the top of the roof. They can be taken off even if you have to do a repair in the roof or any of that ilk, but we don't drill any holes in the roof or attach them. It's strictly gravity that is keeping the panels in place on the roof.
So is this essentially a roof lease? We'd be leasing
Yes,
the roof for 20 years?
Yes, you would probably be leasing, I just had this discussion with Tom about...
Any damage that, not that your panels do, but any damage that the roof encounters during that time frame, we're responsible to remove any of the panels?
No, this is the unique thing. I had not encountered this. Your new roof and the roofer that provided you with the roof and the warranty actually has a PV solar addendum to that roof warranty, which spells out the terms and conditions of how a solar developer can work with your roofer and that warranty to make certain that everybody understands that who is responsible for what that might happen in the future. So
the developer would pay all the costs associated with it?
You can have that. We make absolutely certain that if the developer causes the problem, the developer fixes the problem. So that goes into the contract that you would have with the developer.
Are there any systems that are this large in any?
Well, as a matter of fact, yes. I also, as I mentioned, I represent the Norwell Public Schools. They get their electricity from 2 roof-mounted solar systems in Fall River on the roof of a commercial building there.
But I mean, you're talking around here, the South Shore. Are there any Are there any solar
Yes,
arrays?
there's another one that we've been involved in, which is on the Plymouth North High School, which is about the same size as the array that you could put on this building. Yes. So,
I think Tom has one.
Yeah, I want to thank the committee for their engagement on this topic. This is the beginning of the conversation, and our commitment to keeping non-instructional costs down is ultimately where we want to get to. And the reservations, in my opinion, the reservations that committee members are raising are entirely legitimate, and I would share them as well. I think that Bob's done some great work for us. You might recall, as I said in my memo, that it's a Department of Energy Resources grant that's able to cover his fees. So as part of his consulting work, if what we do is continue, and Bob will get into the next steps in a moment, but additional next steps include what are the alternatives? If the consensus after further information down the road is, nope, we don't want to do this, but we certainly want to pay less for our electricity, what other options do we have? This conversation definitely continues. So I appreciate that feedback. I think it's very, very important. Thank you.
Say, for example, Norwell wanted to sell us electricity the same time Situate did.
That's right.
We went with Situate for one reason, they were cheaper than Norwell. I think they were, what, 2 cents an hour cheaper?
A little bit, yeah.
yes, I was the one who brought that to you.
Okay. But the other thing I have is those credits that we have.
Yes.
We have a mess of credits with Situate now, 150,000 hours or
Yeah.
something like that. My understanding is we'll be using those in dark hours. Is that correct? During the
No,
winter months?
maybe I should,
Please explain it then.
what is a credit? Let's say your bank just decided that they had, through the goodness of their heart and maybe some state and federal regulation, the opportunity to sell you a coupon that took $1,000 off your mortgage every year. And that credit at $1,000 would be deducted from your mortgage payments during the year, but you paid only $500 for that credit to the bank. That's essentially what the net metering credit program is. You pay 5 cents for the credit, and you get a 10-cent credit showing up on your electricity bill. And that circulates from the developer to the utility to the Department of Energy Resources and state regulation, and they put it back on your national grid
So
bill.
it's not a direct reduction in our,
It has nothing to do
with our electricity
It
usage?
has no reduction in your kilowatt hour usage, and it has no immediate reduction in what you need to purchase for your electricity. You're still going to purchase electricity from a third-party supplier, which was mentioned here. You can go out and you can get lower-cost electricity from a third-party supplier than you can from National Grid. And at the same time, you have to pay National Grid for the transmission, distribution, and delivery of that electricity to your meter. And it changes nothing of that. The only thing that the law says is that you have to have enough costs on your, what is called consolidated bill, which is National Grid's charges plus your third-party supplier charges, all put on one bill. You have to have enough dollars there to apply the credits to. The credits can't be more than what you pay in the cost, or you lose the credits. That's what I have looked at to make certain that even if you put an array on the roof and you reduce the amount of electricity that you actually needed to take in from National Grid and a third-party supplier, that those costs wouldn't go down so much that you would lose the opportunity to maximize what you're getting from Situate.
Thank you. It's more complicated than I thought. I'm going to ask Jim one here. Now,
Okay.
what are we paying? Are we paying any Edison dollars right now?
No.
So we're not, the credits right now then are of no use to us?
Well, what's happening is that, unfortunately, or fortunately, I've become a National Grid net metering expert over the last 2 weeks. Talking with Al Bangert over at Situate this morning and communicating with him, what has happened in our agreement, I believe, the original agreement, they just started their array back in October. So they came to us, I guess, in April when the agreement was signed. So they came to us right away and said, we have an array that's going to produce 3 million kilowatt hours. and we want to sell you 25%. And that 25% will be 750,000 kilowatt hours. Based upon our projections, or someone's projections, the school was in the range of 1 million kilowatt hours, which I believe, as far as Mr. Patterson's agreement, it's very detailed. I think the spreadsheet in the back might have some, I'm not sure where the kilowatt hours came from. I think your projections might be a little high as far as the usage of the kilowatt hours, because, again, I think our trailing 12 months that I've been going through the last few days is close to 900,000 kilowatt hours. So that's the situation. We used 900 to 1 million kilowatt hours. Situate says we've got the array that's going to produce 3 million. We'll sell you 25% of 750. So the net cost, the net hours we're going to actually pay National Grid will be somewhere in the range of 150, 200,000 kilowatt hours. Okay. The issue now is that Situate, in talking to Al, their array over the last 12 months, since last October to this October, has produced a little over 4 million kilowatt hours. So they're producing way more kilowatt hours than they expected to. So in there, we still have an agreement. We're getting 1 million kilowatt hour credits for the 25%. And if we're only using 900,000, then yeah, we will have a net credit that will be offset. And unfortunately, fortunately, when our agreement took place in May, all of a sudden they're doing 400,000 kilowatt hours per month, which is, and they've continued for the first 5 months, 6 months of 400,000 hours per month. I mean, they think it's going to drop down to 160,000 kilowatt hours. I'm confusing everybody, aren't I? It's just all these blank stares at me. But pretty much the deal with Situate seems like a great deal. We're paying a net 9 cents per kilowatt hour. Once the hour usage and their credits come down, the projection right now is it'll be pretty close to, a wash. So our net cost for the entire year will be 9 cents per kilowatt hour. Talking to Al as, again, going into the winter months, not sure what their production will be, there may be a need to tweak the 25% figure that we have, in a sense of maybe we only need 20% of their credit. We don't need a 25% credit, because what happens is that just as we when I started looking at the financials and reviewing the numbers, we pay Situate 9 cents on their production. So if they're producing 400,000 units per month, 400 kilowatt hours, our credit is on 100,000 kilowatt hours. So we give them, 100,000 times 9 cents, we give them $9,000 per month. Well, during that month, during the summer, our usage might only be 60,000 credits. So we're only using 60,000 credits, but we're paying Situate for 100,000 credits. So we're actually paying more money to Situate during July, August, September than we would have been paying, to National Grid if there was no agreement in place. But now what's going to happen is when they produce 200,000 or 150,000 units in December, January, February, we're going to be paying them 4,000, where we would have been paying National Grid 12,000. So, I mean, as of today, we have $57,000 of credits with National Grid since the agreement came in place. I just happened to send an email to National Grid and asked them if we could possibly get a check for our credits, and they used the word tariff, which I haven't heard since 6th grade history class. But there's some tariff out there that prevents them from actually giving us a refund. It can only be used for future, consumption of electricity. So right now, I think that, we're still in the infant stage of the Situate agreement. Again, based upon the age of their array, Al says over time their array will produce less electricity because of the age, and they'll lose something. But right now it looks as though it may be in the best interest to wait on the Situate, get more months under our belt to figure out where the array, how much credit we're going to be getting for them, and go from there. Because again, even with Mr. Patterson's number of 8.6 cents, if everything washes, we're only paying Situate 9 cents. So is 0.4 of 1 cent worth the whole project? Again, that doesn't. We don't know where the electricity bill is going to be going over the next couple of years either. So again, it's something that I think that Tom is involved with the Situate project, is got his thumb on it and is going for it, and I think that it's been a great deal, so I think it's worth, and again, it is a multi-year agreement with Situate, so I think that, you know, if we're only paying 9 cents after the Situate agreement, the Situate agreement's still in place with Bob's projection, I'm not sure how much more savings we could have, you know, if we do the solar panels.
I have one other question on it. The Edison, I'll call him the Edison. They do presumably going up 37% or 27%. It depends who you listen to.
Yes.
But I was talking to one of the DPU, the public utilities, and they're basing their rate increase on a lot of lost energy sales because of solar panels and wind power that people like us are buying from third parties. And they owe their stockholders their profits. And that's why, one reason why they're jumping their rates X number of percentage points.
Can I clarify that for you?
Well, you can talk about it anyway. Whether you clarify it, I don't know.
We would all like to think that maybe they are putting it into their vacation fund and other things for their stockholders and for their executives. The fact of the matter is, and this actually is in your favor, National Grid has to go out and procure electricity supply every 6 months for 50% of the electricity that they supply customers that are not on third-party contracts. That recent contract doubled in price. They went from 16.4 cents up to 23.4 cents. So you have, with the credits coming from Situate, you have that increase in the number of credits that you can apply to your costs. Now, this is a one-time window here that happens for this 6 months from November 1st of this year to April of next year. It is then going to go down for the next 6 months when National Grid has to go out and buy the second 6 months of supply contracts. And so this is a moving target in terms of what your costs of electricity are going to be for your facility here. Fortunately, you've got a third-party contract at the moment, which helps stabilize that. But at the same time, you are going to have credits. Now, those credits, and we manage this for many towns, school systems, this credit business is a nightmare for most people. We manage those by talking with utilities like NSTAR and National Grid and allow you to propose a program to carry those credits forward so that you don't lose them. And that's very important, that you know you can go maybe as much as 18 months with credits and finally get them taken care of. So you've got your solar production in Situate, if we're talking about just the Situate, solar production going up in the summer, coming down in the winter. Your load goes down in the summer, comes up in the winter. So your credit pool is rising at the time when you're using less electricity and your costs are lower. So you have to match those two things, and that's one of the things that is very important to keep in mind.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to ask Tom one question before I bring it up. I'm going to recommend tabling this, but I want you to, if they want to go forward with to use the grant to put things together just in case.
We've got the grant all set, so we can continue this conversation in whatever direction you want. So we don't have to take any action.
You don't have to do, okay.
Not at all.
Okay, but what I'm going to do is, I guess it's a homework assignment for all the committee members, to do their research on this. I'm going to ask for a motion to leave this alive on the table and bring it back January, so give everybody a couple months to do their own research, and then we'll bring Mr. Patterson back and we can give him a thing. But what I was asking Tom about is the grant that he has. if we have to do something now, or we can wait.
The grant runs through this fiscal year, Bob.
Okay, so we're
okay.
all set.
I'll make the motion that we,
Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
And I'll second.
Okay.
back in January.
So the motion is to table this until,
Postpone
Not
it,
table.
discussion on,
Continue the discussion.
yeah, until at least
Continue at a
January.
later
yeah.
date,
yeah.
Okay.
time uncertain.
I agree.
Robert's rules, whatever.
Any further questions? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Patterson.
Could I make one suggestion that possibly from some of the questions that I've heard here today, that what we might do is I could provide a sounding board and reply back and look at some of your situation as to what you believe might be the direction you want to go and how that would fit into an overall program to maximize the opportunity to get credits applied to your electricity costs.
Okay, and I guess Jim, he's become the expert in the last 2 weeks. We're going to ask him to become more of an expert in it as well. Because, I just don't want this to turn into a Madoff Ponzi scheme. And I can see that in the back of my head. You got credits here, and you got kilowatts here, and you got kilowatts over here, and nobody knows where they're going.
You are absolutely right, because this seems like something too good to be true. And when you hear that, you sort of
It's
say,
too good to be true.
why is it, as an example, we're doing the Plymouth School Department, and they typically had almost a $2 million electricity bill. Now they're saving $900,000. We have credits coming in for the year. It'll be about $900,000.
And realistically, and like I talked to Jim and talked to Tom and a couple of his school committee members, that, is it cheaper to use your local than to go for the expense and take a chance on the roof? To me, this school is mine. I've been here 39 years, and nothing's going to screw up this school as far as I'm concerned.
You certainly don't want to leak.
I don't want to leave.
We've been there, done that.
We've been through that, and you know what school roofs are. We only get 8 or 10 years out of them at the most. So I'm not going to take the chance. Look at Norwell; they got a problem, and
Yeah, I hear you.
so.
Very
Thank you,
good.
Mr. Patterson.
Thanks, bud.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Shovel it when it snows, do you?
Oh, jeez. We're going on candles.
Keep the bus drivers.
Yeah, totally bus drivers.
Okay. We have policy revisions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just informational, as I mentioned in the mailing, item 8B is just a first reading on a couple of policies relative to budget operation and control and bidding requirements. Using tonight's meeting as a first reading, I would ask that we place it on the agenda for December to take action. And we don't need a motion on that, that's just
Yes,
information.
I was going to recommend that we adopt them tonight, but we have a policy, so we have to have our 2 readings. We don't want to violate our policy.
Thank you.
Surplus declarations, I'll take this in one motion for
I'll make a
whomever.
motion that we declare the items listed from carpentry to main office, allied health, auto body, teacher's room, and cosmetology, and English as surplus items.
That was a mouthful.
Second from Situate. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Mr. Cohasset.
Bonds for approval, warrant 789, $1,490,545.06.
6 cents?
6 cents.
Seconded by Whitman.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous.
Not like Dan wanted to give the 6 cents.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved, Rob. Do we expect?
It's not debatable. All in favor? Thank you, gentlemen.
Andy,